So if you've been around the channel for any length of time, you know that Deshaun Watson is one of my favorite college football players of all time. Now this has a ton to do with his winner's mentality. I'm a big mindset guy, and when I identify that in a player, I usually become a super fan. I was such a fan of Deshaun Watson in college that I did call that Clemson would beat Alabama, and I also said that Deshaun would find success once he went into the NFL, regardless of all of his flaws. Due to his mentality, I knew he would figure it out. Now I said all that just to show you that for every right, there's a wrong. Now I also said in so many words that I really didn't believe in Kelly Bryant. Kelly Bryant don't like the fact that I said Clemson was gonna fall off without Deshaun Watson. He don't like it, bro. Now I remember playing NCAA football 14 dynasty mode, and after Deshaun leaves and you go and play Clemson, it felt like Deshaun was still there because Kelly Bryant was gonna absolutely destroy you. So right there, Kelly's off to a good start in my book. But 2016, I watched the Clemson spring game. Kelly gets into the game and I'm excited. I'm like, oh, that's number 2. That's old boy. I left that game unimpressed. Fast forward to the 2017 spring game. There's a full-fledged quarterback battle at Clemson. Now Kelly was leading this battle, but I felt it was a bad sign that Clemson felt like they needed to make the quarterbacks live in the spring game so that they could really evaluate them. So I'm thinking, okay, they ain't got a lot of confidence in Kelly either. Hindsight, I'm like, maybe they just wanted to give him some in-game action before season started. I mean, it makes sense. Either way, all those reasons led me and many others who are on the night now to say that Clemson would not find the type of success this year that they had the previous few years. Deshaun was gone and the party was over. And while I'm not ready to say that he is Deshaun Watson or is just as good as Deshaun, I am here to say, Kelly, I owe you an apology and a video. So in this one, I'm going to tell you the story of why attempting to replace Deshaun Watson is absolutely nothing compared to what Kelly Bryant has had to endure. As a junior in high school, Kelly Bryant was an imposing force. The 6'4", 205-pound quarterback had just put up ridiculous numbers. 2,600 yards through the air with 29 touchdowns. 1,200 more yards on the ground, 18 rushing touchdowns. So we talking about 3,800 yards and 47 touchdowns as a junior. Now Kelly went to high school in South Carolina and had committed to Clemson, which was the same school his cousin Martavius Bryant had attended. But now that football season was done, Kelly had moved on to the basketball court. He figured to use his 6'4" frame, go dunk on a couple cats. But to better explain what happened next, we need to go back a few years. Now when Kelly was 9th grade, he was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. That's a chronic inflammatory bowel disease that can cause abdominal pain, diarrhea, weight loss, and even anemia. But through a strict diet and medication, Kelly had been able to keep it at bay. Now Kelly had loved spicy food like Mexican and hot wings when he was younger, but due to his condition, he had to give all that up. And even with all of that, he would still occasionally suffer from symptoms. So him getting a little bit sick was a pretty normal thing. So now that you got the backstory, back to Kelly's junior year. Leading up to what Kelly had no idea would be his last high school basketball game, Kelly's dad later noted that he was getting sick every 3 days. Like he would get sick, get well, but then get sick again. And like I said, it was normal for him to get sick, but it usually wasn't this frequently. Right before the game, Kelly was feeling worse than usual and didn't play in the first half. Now Kelly's high school football coach took notice and thought that was odd, so he went to check on Kelly at halftime of the game. When he walks into the locker room, Kelly's vomiting blood. Now they thought it could be an aneurysm, like they didn't know what was going on. So Kelly's parents rushed him to the hospital. Once they got there, they performed an MRI on his abdomen. They found an abscess, and what that is like a pocket of pus, and it is caused by infection. Or in Kelly's case, it was a complication of his Crohn's disease. Now the abscess was said to be the size of a softball, and it was blocking Kelly's lower intestine. Needless to say, he had to have surgery to remove it because if it had burst, it could have infected his entire body, and that can be fatal. So he had emergency surgery to remove it, and the surgery went well, but it wasn't over yet. Kelly had to be bedridden, bro, for over a month. Like, can you imagine putting up 4,000 yards and now laying motionless in a bed for 30+ days? And this is a high school kid who didn't even suffer an injury. It was just due to weird, random circumstances, due to complications of a disease that he could not control. It was like yesterday I was getting ready to dunk on fools, and now this is my reality. Sucks, man. Now remember, when Kelly went to the hospital, he was 6'4", 205 pounds. Over the course of his 30 days, he lost 50 pounds because he couldn't eat any solid food. So he got all the way down to the 150s. He even had to use a walker after being bedridden for so long. His muscles had basically withered away, and when his high school coach went to see him, he said he didn't recognize him. He was just so weak. He was eating only ice and water. If you looked at him before he was sick, he was the epitome of a perfect physical specimen. He didn't look like Kelly Bryant when he was ill. His face did, but that was it. So when he finally was able to leave, he had to wear a colostomy bag, which basically just collects waste that you would normally pass when you go to the restroom. It's basically put there to temporarily do the job of your large intestine while your large intestine continues to heal. So he had to wrap it with bandages when he left home. He wore it to school, to prom, everything. Now, you ever heard the phrase, you gotta be crazy to be great? Okay, check this out. This dude talked his parents into letting him go through spring practice with this colostomy bag, bro. Now, of course, they kept him out of contact drills, but he was able to throw the ball some and go through some conditioning, which I'm sure he desperately needed. You know what I'm saying? After the school year ended, Kelly had surgery to remove the bag, but of course he still had scars. But he worked unbelievably hard that summer, and he regained his weight and worked on his craft. And by his senior season, start of the year, he was back. He threw for nearly 1,000 yards more than he threw his junior year. He finished with 3,500 pass yards and 41 touchdowns, then 700 more yards on the ground with another 14 touchdowns. He was named a finalist for Mr. Football in South Carolina, and he made All-State. Like, after going through all of that the year before, bro, that's crazy, man. Like, what he was able to endure physically and mentally. Imagine laying in that bed and thinking, yo, I may never play again. Then getting out the bed on a walker. Then a year later being an All-State quarterback. So when people, like me, doubted this man's resolve, and he's constantly overcoming it, and people ask him, like, how are you doing this? He just answered.